abayingiddwa emyoyo tobadde wano ninawe enkujja spirits etali mwoyo gw'amaamu gwakufa. That's why buli kyobadde okukwatako nga kifu, buli kyotaleka nga kigaana, not because you don't have a blessing, no, just tutambulirwako maanyi g'abafu. And it would be worse when you are 36 years. It would be worse ng'olina emyaka 36. Mati yabeera very true. That's where this spirit is coming from. Era actually gireke kuba it is just as flat as this. It is just flat. Naye abeera waawo suffering from the right leg. Wegendereze owulira ekintu ekifumita amagulu. Yes, kyekikutuuzizza. Abadde maama wo ng'atudde ku ntaana ye nga yeekutteko. Eventually nekitomerako. Ye mwoyo ne buli ekimuluma kitomerako. Ky'obola yafa atawaana, yafa mwavu, n'ezzadde lye litandika okubonaabona. And this is what is happening. Ate na Mukama yakuyamba n'otakwata ku ntaana ye. You will be totally the poorest. Tosobola maanyi ago. Kubanga bakujjajjaawe waliwo jjajja yanyiiga ennyo. They didn't agree with your mother. Okubaganira was violence. As you speak what you want. As you speak what you want. Wali wayagala okunaaba? Naaba naawe. Speak what you want. Aliyani. Baliudo. Wabangana. Atunaabu kuwaba ali. Abakozi ba safari wa mabantami lavu yawe yakupangirira titi katubati ntitili ebiki omusakuguli wala omusakuguli wala ngenda kusika ngukusisikanye abadonna abanenda baba elinya ali kati naaba Mukama bye baba ali naawe abikumpe mu linnya lya Yesu. Make sure obeera mu maaso gange okumala ennaku 9 nga nkulabako. Amiina. Poliisi kyenjogedde. Wala olabyeko ennyanja. Saagala abantu bagambe bannanga ati Julius Fuuso wa nnyanja. Ennyanja ekulemye okubuuka. Nzaakuleetedde eddaala ne ndikubuusa. Nabakunoonya obaleete basabire babeere baddimbi ekituka kiwetaaga tonaabye katika kulize sente zo oyagala sente oyagala mmeka kati yogera zonna zoyagala naawe oyagala tukoze ki?
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Whenever we talk about this power that brings us together, the devil makes sure he has to fight. And now this is it. When I was just in my prayer room, a voice came, and even when I reached here, it came 2 times. But this is what the voice was.
Still there, I thought maybe it was my thoughts, but when I reached here, I saw it the more. So I was like, this is not my thoughts, these aren't my thoughts. You know, most of the times, though I'm educated enough, whenever I'm into godly things, I put my knowledge aside.
Don't clap. You don't need.
Whenever I'm into godly things, whenever you hear me talking about God, just get to know that I put my knowledge into somewhere, into a basket somewhere. So someone who drives me here is
I'm not so sure that if I give a release to them, that they will remain faithful. That's why I'm still holding some of them, and I'm going to make them, actually some of them, fall off from the grace because their destiny is in falling away. Robert, this is it. Now, I'm speaking the voice, and I don't think it comes from my own mind. Jesus told his disciples, do you want to leave me? Can you go so that I can remain alone? It's only Peter who said, where should we go? Because you have the words of eternal life. Then he said, it's not by flesh, but by the Spirit that you speak these things. But this voice comes quite often. And I'm observing it. That God is still holding something. Because the receiver has not yet developed the faithful part. And here in this ministry, this next quarter, I'm going to begin declaring fasting only for people who have food at home, who have drinks at home, who can buy food. Those who cannot buy food are going to be eliminated from this fasting. If you can buy food, is in the house, come do the fasting. After fasting, go and eat. You can't buy food, you can't care for the family, you can't help others near you. The fasting is useless. Katonda bw'atakola kirungi,
when God doesn't do what is right, then he happens not to be God. So I will turn my back on him so that I see God. I thank God
towards the good side God has done. And I'm telling you, certain things are not done even by God. It is even the devil who quickens what you have asked for so that you can fall very fast. Not everything that the glory goes back to God. As much as we attach it to him, certain things are quickened by the devil, enable some people fall. Because he knows the moment one receives ABCD, he will get off from the grace. The devil does it. Chovola buli bwofuna ekirungi nekikufuga nekikujja Katonda, manya tiyali Katonda. Buli gwolaba ng'afunye omulimu n'ava ku Katonda, manya teyali ani. Please mark this very clearly. Buli gwolaba ng'afunye amaka, buli gwolaba ng'afunye obugagga, buli gwolaba ng'afunye ssente, buli gwolaba ng'afunye omulimu, mark that. And it is the baseline. It is the basis upon which God is saying, ono kansooke mmulindizeemu, ono kansooke nkwatiriremu, ono kansooke mmuleke, kubanga bwe naamugaziya tagenda kunywera. Ate olunaamala okugwa agenda kunoonya amaanyi ge gamu
go seek for the same power,
nenga takyalina contact point,
he won't have the contact anymore.
Nga takyalina
He won't be having
ngeri gyakomawo.
a way.
Kambabulira abooluganda,
Let me tell you,
ensobi ereeta ensonyi. Gamba kati naddayo ntya. Babeeranga mu Katoliki nga tulina akayimba. Sengenda ntya eri Omukama nga sirina kye mutonedde, kamutondera ebyo bye nnina, ayi Mukama bikkirize. Mwekajjukira? In other words, emikono gyange ogibanga giri empty, Mukama naagenda ntya? How will I go? When I sold anything. God is so conscious about his children in the house. Because everything is with us. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you. Unless you don't have a focus, unless you don't know where you want to go, but whichever you need from God, you already have. I know the devil is fighting, but the grace of God is available. The grace of God is sufficient. It will take on. It will take on. The grace is available. I'm telling you, this is prophetic. Principalities are great. You people are praying, intercessors, worshippers, interpreters. The devil has put a total eye on you. If you know, you worship, you intercede, you interpret, you make a program, you organize people to sit, you have a role to play. You are a great target in the anointing of the devil. If you are not serious, this year you will not stand. You will backslide. You will fall.
Ab'ekitongole ekikwasa amateeka mu kibuga Kampala ekyakezesa enforcement bongedde okukola ekikwekweto ku nguudo ez'enjawulo okufuuza abatembeeyi n'abasuubuzi abakyagenda mu maaso n'okweyiyiza ku nguudo ezo.
Buli muntu yenna anoonya Katonda ne waabeera ng'asibiddwa mu mbeera.
Mu kikwekweto ekikoleddwa enkya ya leero n'ababuulizi b'enjiri tebabataliza era nga balabiddwako nga babagoba ku nguudo n'emizindalo gyabwe nga n'egimu giwambiddwa.
Batugamba naffe tuveewo tuleme kuddamu kubuulira njiri. Nze ndaba nga twetaaga omukono gwa Katonda
okusigala nga tuwa abantu essuubi ekigambo kya Katonda kiteekeddwa mu maaso.
Prophetic burden. Have you got that? Then I'm praying also. There is another shot I saw. I saw big shots dying with the elephants. Big shots were dying with the elephants. I saw lions, elephants. There was a buffalo. There is also this other animal which is called what is omusege? This other the wolf. The wolf was moving to eat the dead animals, but I stood in between and the wolf didn't eat. The Spirit told me, very many big people whom we hear in religions, whom we hear in our faith, whom we hear in government, this is their last year. I would mention 3 names, but for the glory of spiritual maturity and prophecy, I reserve the names. I talked to them in the spirit. They were not responding, but they were like lions, but a dead lion. In the Catholic faith, by the grace of God, I don't speak the names. Too many in the government were just dying like insects. Prophetic burden.
We are getting information from Israeli sources that the Ayatollah is dead. This is breaking news again coming from Israeli sources that the Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran, is dead. Again, we're going to go to Jeremy Diamond. Jeremy, the strikes coming this morning that were targeting senior leadership. That's what we knew. Targeting senior leadership there in Iran. And now we can say from Israeli sources that the Ayatollah of Iran, the supreme leader, is dead. What more are you learning there in Israel?
That's right, Jessica. Two Israeli sources telling me and my colleague Tal Shalev that Israel has confirmed that the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been killed as a result of those Israeli strikes that took place earlier today. One of these sources saying that Israel actually has photographic evidence of Khamenei showing his dead body. The second source told me that an official announcement is in the works, although it is possible that the Israelis will allow President Trump and the United States to make this announcement officially. But this is enormous breaking news here that the Israeli government is confirming that the supreme leader of Iran was killed in Israeli strikes earlier today. This is a day that many Israeli government officials have hoped would come eventually. It is also, we should note, a day that many Iranian dissidents, Iranian protesters had hoped would eventually come. And indeed, it has come now. And it is an earth-shattering moment for the Middle East and for the future of Iran. We should note, however, that killed in Israeli strikes today. One last note on this is that we have also been hearing about the division of labor between the United States and Israel as it pertains to these strikes. U.S. officials have been very clear that their strikes have been focused on military targets and that the strikes targeting senior Iranian leaders, such as the supreme leader, were being conducted by Israel and not by the United States. Ultimately, that may very well be a distinction without a difference, given the high level of coordination between the United States and Israel in preparing and carrying out these strikes. But this is obviously an enormous moment in the Middle East, something that we anticipated could potentially be a target of any Israeli or U.S. strikes on Iran. And indeed, now not only a target, but confirmed by Israeli sources that the supreme leader of Iran is dead.
Indeed, big news out of the Middle East, the potential to reshape so many dynamics there. But again, as Jeremy notes, not a straight line to regime change. This is a piece of it, but it is a big piece of it. This is enormous news. Jeremy, I want you to stand by because we have seen those missiles that have been coming to Israel throughout the day. So stay with us. I do want to bring Jim Sciutto back in. Jim, this is very big news. And again, Jeremy, it is. And so help people understand, contextualize for them that what this means, that Iran's supreme leader has been killed in these strikes by the U.S. and Israel.
These strikes are now officially decapitation strikes, right? Strikes that were intended via Israeli military action, to be clear, to take out Iran's most senior leadership. And the man you see there, Ali Khamenei, is Iran's most senior leader with enormous, certainly political power in that country, but also religious authority in that country. The structure of Iranian government being that, yes, it has a president elected, but the supreme leader lies at the top of the government. In Iran, does that mean that suddenly there will be a new government, a new leader, one friendlier to the U.S.? No, an enormous network and structure of leadership and power remains in that country, military, economic, political, and otherwise. But to take out the supreme leader is a significant change. And of course, the question is, how far does that change go? Does it weaken the government to the degree that the government collapses? Does it weaken it to a degree that the protesters that we saw take on this government quite bravely in recent weeks are inspired to go out into the streets again, right? I mean, that's what President Trump was encouraging them to do explicitly in a statement this morning. Now, that's quite a risky proposition, given that government retains enormous power, and they showed they were willing to use it to deadly extent in the many thousands of protesters they killed in recent weeks. Those are still the open questions, but we have one question answered. Was Israel willing to go so far as to take out the supreme leader of Iran? And the answer is yes, and they had success doing so.
Right. And now the big question is what comes next? Jim Sciutto, stand by. I want to bring in Barak Ravid, CNN political and global affairs analyst. He's also a global affairs correspondent at Axios. Barak, I know you spoke with President Trump earlier today. Again, if you are just joining us, our breaking news is that Iran's supreme leader has been killed in these strikes. That is coming from Israeli sources. Barak, we're still waiting to hear from the president, from the U.S. government, but the Israeli sources confirming that. What more are you learning? What did the president tell you?
So first, just about Khamenei, I think around 30, 40 minutes ago, the Israeli ambassador to Washington, Yechiel Leiter, updated several U.S. officials and members of Congress that Israeli intelligence shows that Khamenei has been killed and his body was taken out of the rubble in the compound in Tehran that was attacked. I spoke to President Trump a little bit before 1 p.m. While he was in Mar-a-Lago. We spoke for around 5 minutes. The president sounded, to me at least, pretty calm and confident that things are going according to plan. I think the situation with Khamenei was one of the main things he was tracking at that moment. And what was interesting in what he told me is that I asked him, how long is this going to continue? And he said, I have several off-ramps. I can go long and take the whole thing, meaning take over Iran, something that, I don't think that's something that is seriously being considered.
That's quite a statement, yeah.
Yeah. Or I can go on for another 2-3 days and then tell the Iranians, we'll see you again in a few years if you try and rebuild your nuclear program, your missile program, meaning that Donald Trump, at least my impression from the conversation with him, is that he's looking to end this thing within a few days and basically put an ultimatum to the Iranians. We can get a deal, or you can try and rebuild your program, and then we'll just bomb you again if you try to do this. And I think that was one of the messages that U.S. officials that just briefed reporters, I think 10 minutes ago, said that when the 12-day war ended after Operation Midnight Hammer, the U.S. told Iran, if you try to rebuild, we will come again. And those U.S. officials said that the Iranians, according to U.S. intelligence, did try and rebuild the program. So we know from satellite imagery that the Iranians started infrastructure work in several of the nuclear sites that were attacked in June. We do not know whether they really tried to resume a nuclear program, meaning enrichment and other activities. One of the interesting things I heard from President Trump is that he told me that he thinks that Operation Midnight Hammer allowed Operation Epic Fury to go forward. Because President Trump claimed that if he did not go on that operation last June, if he did not order a strike on those 3 nuclear facilities, Iran would have been much, much closer to a nuclear weapon, maybe even have a nuclear weapon by now, according to what President Trump said. And that would make the current operation much harder, maybe even impossible.
Prophetic burden. Have you got that? Then I'm praying also. There is another shot I saw. I saw big shots dying with the elephants. Big shots were dying with the elephants. I saw lions. Elephants. There was a buffalo. There is also this other animal which is called what is omusege? This other the wolf. The wolf was moving to eat the dead animals, but I stood in between and the wolf didn't eat.
The
Spirit told me very many big people whom we hear in religions, whom we hear in our faith, whom we hear in government. This is their last year. I would mention 3 names, but for the glory of spiritual maturity and prophecy, I reserve the names. I talked to them in the spirit. They were not responding, but they were like lions, but a dead lion. In the Catholic faith, by the grace of God, I don't speak the names. Too many in the government were just dying like insects. Prophetic burden.
You're fighting for the money. You're fighting for our life.
He told foreign machineries they were fighting for money while he was fighting for his life.
Hey, quickly.
It turns out that was the most prophetic thing Willie Ngoma ever said, because 1 year later, a drone locked onto his coordinates and Willie was no more. So how did the M23 spokesman go from internet celebrity to the most hunted man in the DRC? It involves a laundry list of war crimes, a very expensive drone program, and a fatal miscalculation. In early February 2025, just as the M23 rebels were busy rewriting the map of eastern Congo by capturing Goma, Willie decided to step in front of a camera and staged the most gloriously theatrical expulsion of foreign machineries the Congo has ever seen. In the footage, we see the M23 spokesman ordering around wide-eyed machineries from Colombia, Romania, and beyond, who had allegedly been hired to reinforce the Congolese army.
Don't joke to M23, my bro. Don't joke. That is army for the people. Don't joke. Don't joke. Move, quickly. Jump, quickly. Quickly.
To M23 supporters, the footage was pure digital adrenaline because an African commander was publicly giving orders to foreign fighters, flipping a script many on the continent know too well, where outsiders have long dictated terms on African soil.
N'amenez pas les aventures ici. Tu as compris? On extermine une catégorie de la population. On mange même leur chair humaine. $8 000. Un soldat congolais touche moins de $100.
But the internet, of course, loved it. The clip went viral, transforming Ngoma into an instant celebrity among M23 supporters.
Our experience, we were just working there as instructors for the army. So, are you mercenaries? No, instructors.
And that's the thing about wartime visibility. It doesn't just make you famous, it makes you findable. You see, Ngoma's enemies didn't need to invent reasons to want him gone. He already had a file. By the time that video made him a household face in the conflict, he had been sanctioned by the European Union since December 2022 and listed by the United Nations Security Council since at least 2024 under resolutions tied to undermining peace in the DRC. Now, the sanctions didn't accuse him of being merely an internet sensation. The charges were a laundry list of horrors, fueling instability, involvement in killings and abductions, and looting communities, recruiting child soldiers, sexual violence, and sustaining a parallel war economy financed through illegal mineral taxation and weapons network.
We are a Congolese army. We are Congolese. We fight for a fair and noble cause. We are Congolese. We are not helped by Rwanda.
No, let's stop that.
In other words, he had swallowed far more than he could chew, and the bill was piling up.
Donc, il traverse directement la frontière rwandaise. Donc, pour aller chez eux.
By February 2026, exactly 1 year after his internet stardom, President Felix Tshisekedi had stopped relying on sleepless nights and started relying on air superiority. The Congolese government had invested heavily in drone technology, looking to end the cat and mouse game in the dense forests of the east. One hotspot was Rubaya in Masisi territory, North Kivu, strategic not only because it sits on contested ground, but because it is rich in coltan and other minerals, the kind of resources that turn conflict into an economy. Willy Ngoma had reportedly been in and around that region for months, taking refuge in the area, likely thinking the rugged terrain would keep him safe. But you can't hide from the skies. On Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, the drones arrived. A Congolese army drone strike hit rebel position in Rubaya. Several M23 fighters were reportedly killed. Among them, according to regional security sources, was Willy Ngoma, the viral spokesman, the sanction-listed figure, the man whose voice had become a brand. The aftermath, predictably, was a tale of two cities. M23 supporters and critics of the government mourned him as a brave soldier, a martyr taken out in a violation of the ceasefire that only escalates the struggle. On the other side, government supporters saw it as a breakthrough. They described him as a key figure in a Rwanda-backed rebellion and framed the drone strike as proof that the state can still project force in the east.
Nous sommes aujourd'hui le 16 décembre 2024. Vous voyez les véhicules sont en train de brûler. Les FARDC eux-mêmes ont brûlé leurs véhicules. Bakimi, Botabana, Mutuka Batumi. Ça brûle encore, hein. Nous sommes là. Donc après Matembe, Tozus Kikoyo, Vichumbiro. Donc, Kabundi, c'est là Kabundi Mbangu, Moko Sanate. Wazalendo Mbangu, Mbangu Sanate. Hein? Moi, colonel, Nenga Otiko, le Basiko, Goza Oyoka, Batoba Palangani, Nenga le Bibo. Palangani Botaba. Palami Tukango. C'est donc ça veut toujours, mouvement la bino dans la force. Toben la bino, Boya, Boya rejoindre Biso, que libérer Mboka. Baokima. Baomilapema. Merci. Merci beaucoup.
Civil society sources had reported heavy fighting in several localities near Rubaya since Sunday. Hundreds of families have been forced to flee. The Tuesday pre-dawn attack that killed M23 spokesperson Willy Ngoma targeted a spot that has in recent weeks served as an enclave for the M23 rebels, according to residents. Rubaya, a key coltan mining town in eastern DRC, produces approximately 15% of global supply and is also a key financial stronghold for the M23 rebels.
VM23 relies heavily on the Rubaya mine to keep itself financially afloat. Losing Rubaya and the decapitation of Willy Ngoma would be a hard blow to the rebellion.
The attack also comes at a time when Qatar-mediated ceasefire efforts are underway in Doha, where the DRC government and the M23 signed ceasefire agreements. Both parties have been trading accusations of violating the terms of the truce. Experts say Ngoma's killing might further strain ongoing peace efforts.
The other consequence may be the radicalization of the rebellion, as they have long decried Kinshasa's violation of the ceasefire. So the assassination or death of their leader could be a tipping point, meaning the M23 could abandon its current defensive stance and trigger a resumption of hostilities.
Willy Ngoma had been under European Union sanctions since December 2022 for his role as M23 spokesperson. He was also designated by the US in 2023 for alleged involvement in human rights violations, including killings and sexual violence. Sophia Shimechero, CGTN.
For more, we earlier spoke to Chris Ochemringa in Kinshasa. Let's take a listen.
And so the government in Kinshasa hasn't made any official statement. We've only seen people who are close to the government, the ruling party, celebrating this killing of a senior member. I think Willy Ngoma is one of the most senior officials of M23 who has been killed so far. And they are hoping that, this sends a message to other members of the M23 rebels to stop this fighting. But according to a statement that has been circulating on social media, the M23 rebels expressed very consternation about this killing and said that they are informing the national and international community about this constant violation by the Kinshasa authorities of a ceasefire agreement, and that they will, take hitting back very, very hard. So we are likely to see hitting back very, very hard. So we are likely to see an escalation of fighting. There are people who are, behind the scenes calling on the United States, Qatar and African Union to step up, the diplomacy to try and de-escalate this threat that, has become very, very imminent because of the killing of Willy Ngoma. There is a team of UN peacekeepers that has been deployed to the city of Uvira, and they have also been joined by members of an intergovernmental body known as the International Conference of the Great Lakes region to kind of prepare the ground for this ceasefire monitoring mission that is supposed to take place in Uvira. So they're supposed to act as a buffer between the M23 and the government forces and the Wazalendo fighters to stop the fighting. But there's still, a lot of fighting going on, so they will not deploy until they're assured of the guns falling silent between the two parties.
There is going to be a rise in the global leaders' talk about our government. They are going to talk about our government. The president has overtaken too many years in leadership. He should leave us with freedom. He should not lead us again. They will cause tension, but they will not do anything. They will not do. They will talk, incite violence, show power, speak stronger words, but they will leave us the way we are. The president will remain the president. I know some of you don't want to listen to these things because you have been praying and fasting for this man to go. But he's still very alive. Let me just assure you, unless you see the spirit more than I do, but if you don't and you have come to be led, then I am the prophet.
Post-election situation in Uganda and threats against opposition leader Bobi Wine.
Omukago gwa Bulaaya bwe gumu ku mikago egyalondoola akalulu ka 2026 n'okusingira ddala ku mutendera gw'obwa pulezidenti. Mu bbanga ttono lw'ekiwakakuba amabega Paalamenti y'omukago gwa Bulaaya ekubaganyiza ebirowoozo ku ngeri akalulu ka Uganda gye kaatambulamu era balumiriza nti ebitaatambula bulungi byali bingi ddala byebavumiridde.
Mass arrests, violence, attacks on
asibwa olw'ebyobufuzi mu kalulu.
We call for the immediate and unconditional release of all political prisoners and end to military trial of civilians, full accountability for the crimes committed and a real electoral reform.
Bino bijjidde ng'olunaku lw'eggulo Sipiika wa Paalamenti Anita Amongo yakakasizza nga gavumenti bw'eri mu nteekateeka ez'okuyimbulwa kw'abantu abakwatibwa mu kulonda abatalina musango.
And then distinguish politics from it. However, if we want to have a dialogue, reconciliation, and all those who do not have any case will get out. They will get out.
ekibiina kya NUP mu kuyita mwogezi waakyo ate nga yakulira oludda oluvuganya gavumenti mu Parliament Joel Ssenyonyi agamba nti gavumenti bazze bagiteeka ku nninga ku nsonga zino nga yeefudde kyesirikidde.
Ensonga zino tuzanjula mu Parliament banzanjula ng'agamba nedda loopusi kituufu abantu balina emisango naye kaakati akkiriza era tutuga nti abantu baffe bonna abaasibibwa byabufuzi tolaba akozesa ekigambo criminals. Nyabo Madamu Speaker, toli mulamuzi mu ggwanga lino, toli kooti. Kooti yesalawo nti omuntu ono criminal era omusango gumusse mu vi.
Amazaalibwa ga pulezidenti waffe kwongera kukuba tooki ku mbeera Abannayuganda naddala bali mu makomera ku nsonga za byabufuzi nga tebaaza musango gwonna.
Soboolyawo twalibadde ne pate ennene ekitasobodde kubeerawo olw'embeera gye tuli.